Welcome to today's deep dive. I want you to picture a scenario that I think is pretty universally relatable right now.
Oh, definitely.
You are sitting there and you are feeling entirely overwhelmed.
Right.
Your brain basically feels like a web browser with about 57 tabs open at once.
The music is playing from one of them.
Yes, music is playing from one of them. You have no idea which one. Your stress levels are just creeping up. And what you desperately want more than anything else is a mental reset button.
Mm-hmm.
Not just a distraction, like scrolling on your phone,
Right.
but a true system-wide reboot for your brain and your body.
A total shutdown and restart.
Exactly. Well, today we are exploring a massive stack of research on something that might just be that exact button. It's called Yoga Nidra.
Which is often translated from Sanskrit as yogic sleep.
Right, yogic sleep. And before you just write this off as taking a cozy nap on a yoga mat in the middle of the day, let me be very clear about our mission here.
Yeah, we have to clarify that.
We are looking at a highly sophisticated psychophysiological protocol. This is about cognitive engineering, not just catching some extra Z's.
That is a crucial distinction to establish right away. We aren't talking about dozing off.
Right.
What's fascinating here is that Yoga Nidra is ultimately the pursuit of a state called Jagrat Sushupti.
Jagrat Sushupti.
Exactly. That translates to the profound, almost unbelievable paradox of being fully, lucidly awake while your physical body is in a state of deep sleep.
It sounds impossible.
It does, but today we are going to decode the biology, the ancient philosophy, and the literal neuroscience of how lying perfectly still can actually rewire your brain.
Wow.
It's a practice where you remain completely conscious, but you are intentionally descending into the very deepest basements of your nervous system.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to really understand how this works, we have to look at how this ancient practice actually views the human experience.
Yes, the foundational philosophy.
Yeah. All right, we have to talk about the koshas. From what I gathered in the source material, this is a foundational concept, but it can get a little dense. Can you walk us through what these are?
Gladly. In the yogic tradition, the koshas are essentially layered sheaths of our existential being.
Layered sheaths.
Yeah, the easiest way to conceptualize them is to think of a Russian nesting doll.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yoga Nidra is designed to systematically walk you through these layers, unpeeling them one by one. You start with the outermost doll, the Annamaya kosha, which is the physical body.
The physical layer.
Right. You lie down, you deliberately relax your muscles, and you begin to withdraw your outward senses.
Mm-hmm.
Once the physical body is settled, you open that doll to reveal the next one, the pranamaya kosha, the energetic layer. Here, the focus shifts entirely to the breath and the subtle energy channels.
So you are basically giving your conscious mind a highly specific, sequenced job to do.
Exactly.
Layer by layer, so it doesn't wander off and start stressing about your grocery list or whatever.
That's a great way to put it. And it doesn't stop with the breath.
Right.
Once the physical and energetic bodies are still, you navigate into the manamaya kosha, which is the mental sheath. You do this through guided imagery, anchoring the mind in a state of niruddha.
Niruddha meaning withdrawal.
Right, correct, withdrawal. The goal here is to quiet the vritti, those endless, chaotic thought patterns and distractions of your normal waking life.
Of 57 browser tabs.
Yes, the browser tabs. But the key is that you aren't fighting them. You are just observing them.
Just watching.
Right, and this methodical unraveling eventually grants you access to the innermost doll, the Anandamaya kosha, the sheath of bliss. This is where the witnessing consciousness operates completely unencumbered by your ego or your daily anxieties.
And what I find so brilliant about this whole process is the actual physical posture of introspection.
The physical setup is key.
If you think about traditional seated meditation, what the text called dhyana, it takes a lot of physical effort.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to hold yourself upright, you have to fight gravity, your lower back might ache, your foot falls asleep.
It can be a battle.
But Yoga Nidra uses shavasana, the corpse pose. You are just lying flat on your back on the floor. It completely removes the friction between effort and ease.
Yes.
You get profound physiological rest and razor-sharp cognitive clarity at the exact same time.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this exact mechanism, removing physical friction to access deep mental states, is why Yoga Nidra is so incredibly relevant right now for trauma recovery.
Oh, absolutely. The trauma research was fascinating.
When we look at trauma through the lens of polyvagal theory, we see that trauma isn't just a memory stuck in the mind.
Right, it's in the body.
It's physically trapped in a dysregulated autonomic nervous system. Your body literally forgets how to feel safe.
Mm.
The sequential structure of Yoga Nidra, the incredibly detailed body scanning, the breath awareness, it actually mirrors the biological hierarchy of how we perceive safety.
So when a guided track is telling you to bring your awareness to your right thumb, then your right index finger,
You aren't just relaxing those muscles.
you're having a conversation with your nervous system.
You are. The body scan is a recalibration of your interoceptive accuracy.
Interoception.
Yeah, interoception is just a fancy word for your ability to feel what's happening inside your own body.
Right.
Trauma survivors often lose that internal accuracy. Their nervous system is locked in hyperarousal, always scanning for threats or dissociation, where they feel completely numb.
Wow, so true.
By sequentially scanning the body without moving it, you are actively signaling safety to the brainstem. Then, you bring in the breath work.
The exhalations.
Prolonged exhalations serve as a highly effective, completely non-invasive way to stimulate the vagus nerve. This physically shifts the body out of the sympathetic fight-or-flight response and into the ventral vagal pathway.
The rest and digest mode.
Yes, the state responsible for social engagement, feeling safe, and restorative biological processing.
It's literally changing the channel of your nervous system from the alarm system to the repair system.
Beautifully said.
But I want to pause here because our sources are very clear on this next point, and we need to emphasize it for anyone listening. There is a serious warning attached to this.
Yes, this is not something to take lightly.
If someone is dealing with severe, unresolved PTSD, they shouldn't just throw on a headset and plunge into the deep end, right?
That is a vital point highlighted across the clinical research. For a trauma survivor who is operating under a chronic sense of threat, dropping into these deep, altered states of consciousness without trauma-informed adaptation and constant safety check-ins can actually backfire.
It can make it worse.
Exactly. The sudden lack of physical boundaries and sensory input can trigger terrifying survival responses rather than dissolve them.
Because they lose their anchors to the present.
Yes. For these individuals, the deep relaxation has to be a carefully structured, heavily supervised prelude to cognitive reprogramming. It cannot be just a haphazard dive into the subconscious.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because when we talk about dropping into the subconscious and reprogramming the mind, my brain immediately goes to hypnosis.
A very natural comparison.
And the research points out that from a neurological standpoint, there are massive similarities here. Both clinical hypnosis and Yoga Nidra involve deep relaxation, drastically narrowing your focus and dampening external sensory inputs to access deeper, more malleable states of mind.
They do share that initial architecture. If you look at an EEG brain scan, the descent into theta brainwaves looks very similar.
Okay.
However, the crucial difference lies in the mechanism and the ultimate intent. Clinical hypnosis relies heavily on external suggestions.
Right, the therapist talking to you.
The practitioner uses targeted verbal prompts to reshape your cognitive patterns or modify your behaviors while you are in a highly suggestible state.
Make you cluck like a chicken or, quit smoking.
Exactly. Yoga Nidra, conversely, does not use external manipulation. It relies on a concept called ekagrata, which is one-pointed awareness.
So instead of a hypnotherapist planting an idea in your head, like telling you that cigarettes taste like dirt, you were just watching your own mind.
Let's take that a step further. You become a non-reactive witness, or sakshi, to your internal landscape. You are engaging in a form of self-hypnosis, but the goal isn't to accept new external suggestions from a guide. It's to entirely disengage from your own reactive mental content while maintaining lucid awareness.
You just watch the thoughts go by on a conveyor belt.
Precisely. You learn to observe your thoughts without getting tangled up in them.
And that brings us to one of the most powerful and probably most misunderstood tools in the Yoga Nidra toolkit.
The sankalpa.
Yes, the sankalpa. This is usually translated as an intention. But looking at the sources, this is not some shallow modern affirmation. It's not looking in the mirror and saying, I am going to crush this presentation today.
No, not at all.
A true sankalpa is a reverential commitment rooted in the deepest elements of yoga philosophy. Sat, which is reality. Chit, which is awareness. And Ananda, which is bliss.
The neuroscience of how the sankalpa actually works in the brain is truly remarkable.
I love this part.
When you plant this intention during a Yoga Nidra session, you are typically in that theta-wave brain state we just mentioned. This state bridges the hippocampus and the basal ganglia.
Okay.
These are the systems involved in spatial memory and procedural learning, basically how we form deep habits.
Right.
The sankalpa uniquely activates the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, or DLPFC. and the anterior cingulate cortex, the ACC.
Okay, let's slow down for a second and translate that for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
The prefrontal cortex is our executive function, right? It's
Yeah.
the decision maker.
Yes.
And the ACC is basically the brain's error detection center.
Right.
So you are hitting the brain's highest level planning centers, but you're doing it while your body is completely asleep.
Yes, and that is the secret sauce of the practice.
Wow.
Normally, when you try to change a habit, you use willpower. You use force.
Like knuckling it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here, you are cultivating intention without the emotional friction or the grip of traditional goal-driven behavior. By doing this in the theta state, the sankalpa modulates the insula and the ventromedial prefrontal cortex.
VMPFC.
What this means in plain English is that it allows the change to become habitualized, not just conceptualized.
Ah, that makes sense.
You bypass the inattentive, stressful mental chatter of the waking mind to literally restructure implicit memory. You are rewriting entrenched neural pathways while offering zero resistance.
Real resistance.
The promise this holds for things like addiction and long-term behavioral therapy is massive because it offers a way to recalibrate our deepest habits at the synaptic level.
It's like you are waiting for the brain's stubborn security guards to go on their lunch break.
That's a perfect image.
And then you just sneak past them to install a brand new operating system. And the way this impacts our daily waking life, our cognitive landscape, is wild. The research brings up this concept of predictive coding.
Predictive coding is a fascinating neuroscientific model. It's the idea that our brains are not just passive receivers of reality. Instead, our brains are constantly generating expectations that shape our perception. We predict what we are going to see, feel, and experience based on past experiences, and then we mold reality to fit those predictions.
So if you're used to a certain coworker being annoying, your brain predicts they will be annoying, and you interpret everything they say through that lens.
Confirmation bias on a neurological level.
Right. But Yoga Nidra interrupts that loop. Because you are trained for 45 minutes to passively observe sensations, an itch on your nose, a feeling of heaviness, without engaging any top-down cognitive dissonance.
You just watch the itch.
Yes, you just watch the itch without creating a mental story about how annoying the itch is. And over time, that reshapes how your mind interprets stimuli in your everyday life.
It absolutely does, and it achieves this largely by hacking what we call the default mode network, or DMN.
The DMN.
Think of the DMN as the brain network that is active when our minds are wandering, when we're ruminating on the past or stressing about the future.
So, for everyone listening who finds themselves stuck in a loop of agonizing over an awkward email they sent 3 days ago while they are mindlessly washing the dishes, that is their DMN running wild.
That's exactly it.
It's like a bunch of background apps draining your phone's battery.
That is the perfect analogy. And when the DMN is hyperactive or dysregulated, it is a primary driver of chronic stress, anxiety, and depression. Normally, cognitive therapies try to forcefully shut that network down or distract it, which often just causes a rebound effect because you're fighting your own mind.
You can't just tell yourself to stop thinking.
Exactly. Yoga Nidra doesn't try to dismantle the DMN. Instead, it redistributes its mental architecture. The structured progression of the practice gradually modulates the DMN's activity, replacing chaotic disorder with a new, more balanced baseline.
Wow.
You are intervening in habitual mental circuits while in a state of neural limbo where your resistance to change is practically zero.
Which makes me think, if it's this incredibly relaxing neurocalming protocol that shuts down the background noise, is it the ultimate cure for insomnia? Can you just hit play on a Yoga Nidra track at 2 a.m. when you're staring at the ceiling and you're cured?
This raises an important question, because the relationship between Yoga Nidra and sleep is highly nuanced and often misunderstood. On one hand, yes, the practice lowers cortisol and sympathovagal activity. It engages neurochemical pathways central to sleep regulation and shifts you out of sympathetic hyperarousal.
But there is a catch.
A significant catch. If you use it directly before bed for severe insomnia, it can completely backfire.
Really?
Remember what we said at the beginning? Yoga Nidra is about maintaining a sliver of lucid awareness. It is Jagrat Sushupti, awaken deep sleep.
Right, awaken deep sleep.
If you lack external stimuli and you are lying in the dark, the practice can lead to an overactivation of internal sensory filmmaking.
Oh, wow. So instead of going to sleep, you accidentally turn on the IMAX theater projector in your mind when you were trying to shut the whole building down.
Exactly.
You're giving your brain a high-definition canvas to play with.
Exactly. You end up with concurrent restlessness in the subconscious because your mind is highly active in the theta state.
That sounds frustrating.
It can actually lengthen the time it takes you to fall asleep. To use it effectively for insomnia, it must be timed carefully with the body's homeostatic rest cycles.
So when should you do it?
Ideally, you schedule it in the late afternoon or early evening, allowing it to clear out the physiological stress accumulation, rather than right when you want to drop into unconsciousness.
That makes so much sense. Now, to pivot slightly, while we were talking about modern neuroscience, fMRI machines, and sleep hygiene, we really have to look back at where this all came from.
The roots are ancient.
Because ancient practitioners essentially mapped these neurological sleep states thousands of years before we had brain scanners. The historical roots are deep.
Very deep.
The sources detail tantric origins, texts like the Kulurnava Tantra, and classical Samkhya philosophy. In Samkhya, the entire goal is to separate the Purusha, which is the true witnessing self, from the Prakriti, which is the material changing world.
And looking at those roots highlights a real risk in the modern secularization of Yoga Nidra.
How so?
By stripping away these philosophical foundations and just treating it as a life hack, we risk reducing a profound spiritual journey into a mere relaxation drill.
Right, just a nap.
The original texts emphasize advanced esoteric elements that are almost entirely missing from modern studio classes. For instance, the awakening of Kundalini Shakti, the dormant spiritual energy at the base of the spine, through highly specific, complex guided visualizations.
And the sources also mentioned the use of kumpaka, right?
Yes, kumpaka.
Which is breath retention. How does holding your breath fit into a relaxation practice?
Kumpaka plays a pivotal role in the traditional practice, and it is far more than just a breathing exercise. It's a mechanism to synchronize intracortical areas in the brain and aggressively regulate vital energy.
Aggressively regulate.
It prepares the body to act as a receptacle for massively heightened awareness. In the ancient context, the body scan wasn't just to relax your tired muscles. It was a sacred ritual of internal purification, a directed movement of consciousness through the subtle energetic body.
It's so fascinating how this ancient, complex, deeply spiritual system is being adapted today for very specific modern minds. Like how they alter this for children.
Yes, the pediatric adaptations.
Because obviously, you can't just tell a restless 5-year-old to focus on their third eye, awaken their kundalini, and enter the theta state.
Yeah.
What does that actually look like in practice?
It requires brilliant translation. Facilitators disguise the practice as interactive storytelling and fairy tales.
Fairy tales.
Instead of a clinical body scan, a child might be guided to imagine a warm, glowing star traveling down to their toes, or a friendly animal resting on their belly as they breathe.
That is so smart.
By embedding the body scan into a safe, predictable narrative, it directly engages the developing insula and hippocampus. It helps the child with profound emotional regulation and nervous system settling without them ever knowing they are doing a complex yogic practice.
And on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, the adaptations for elite athletes are equally compelling. How are they using it?
For a high-performance athlete, Yoga Nidra becomes a neuromuscular tuning chamber.
A tuning chamber.
Instead of generic visualizations of a peaceful beach, sports psychologists use gross motor imagery. They have the athlete mentally rehearse successful reflexive timing or visualize concentrated force exertion, like a perfect golf swing or a sprint start, while they are in that state of deep physiological alleviation.
Programming the muscles while they rest.
Exactly. They also use resonant nature frequencies in the audio, like the specific sound of water flow or rustling trees, which neurologically cohere with delta wave entrainment to actually accelerate muscle memory restoration and tissue healing.
It's just incredible. But just as there are brilliant adaptations, the research is very explicit about the contraindications. We touched on severe trauma earlier, but this is not a one-size-fits-all magic pill. Who else should be careful here?
We must be clear about the risks. For individuals with dissociative identity disorder, or DIGI, Yoga Nidra can be quite dangerous.
Really?
The disassociated cognitive presence that the practice deliberately cultivates can confuse fragile identities or activate triggering psychological schemas, making the subconscious feel abandoned rather than safe.
And there are also specific risks regarding sleep paralysis and hallucinations, right?
Yes. Because Yoga Nidra deliberately simulates a descent into theta and delta brainwave oscillations, it essentially mimics the neurological substrates of REM atonia, which is the natural muscle paralysis of sleep and hypnagogic hallucinations, those waking dreams you get right before you fall asleep.
Right.
If someone is already prone to sleep paralysis, this practice can inadvertently open cognitive pathways to hypothesize threats, resulting in subjective discomfort, lingering confusion, or even outright panic.
That sounds terrifying.
Furthermore, unsupervised use of those advanced traditional techniques we mentioned, like kumbhaka breath retention, can cause erratic heart rhythms or alter autonomic regulation in sensitive individuals. Expert, personalized guidance is absolutely essential if you are stepping outside of basic relaxation.
So what does this all mean? We've covered everything from ancient tantric texts and Russian nesting dolls to the ventromedial prefrontal cortex and elite athletes.
We've covered a lot of ground.
If we synthesize all of this, it is abundantly clear that Yoga Nidra is not just a nap. It is a profound, sequential unraveling of the physical, mental, and metaphysical dimensions of who we are.
Perfectly stated.
It's a tool for cognitive engineering, for exploring temporal consciousness, and for deep neurobiological healing. It allows us to access the deepest parts of our programming while remaining fully awake as the witness.
I think the most accurate way to describe it, based on the synthesis of all these diverse disciplines, is that Yoga Nidra operates as a precise surgical incision across the layers of our neurophysiological noise.
A surgical incision.
It offers a way to silence the internal mechanisms of distress through aligned, detached awareness. It isn't about escaping reality or turning off the brain. It's a technology of awakening that bridges ancient spiritual methodologies with contemporary scientific models of human function.
It truly changes how you view the capabilities of the human mind. And it leaves me with a final thought, something for you to mull over long after this deep dive ends, maybe the next time you're stuck in traffic or staring at your phone.
Yes.
If Yoga Nidra proves biologically that we can fundamentally rewire our deepest traumas, our entrenched habits, and our neural pathways by entering a state of complete physical stillness and total non-engagement,
Total surrender.
what does that say about our modern obsession with hustle culture and constant grinding cognitive effort? Could it be that the most profound, lasting personal evolutions require us to stop trying so hard and simply learn how to lie perfectly still and just witness?
That is the ultimate question.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we'll see you next time.